Alright guys, so now we're going to start to work with our profile state quite a bit. Okay, we're going to create the dashboard, which is going to it's going to basically fetch that the logged in user's profile. So let's create the reducer first. So we'll go into reducers and create a new file called profile reducer.js, and let's go to index.js before I forget and just bring that in. So we want to bring in profile reducer from profile reducer, and then just add it down here. Profile reducer. Good. All right, so we can close that up. No need for that anymore. And we're going to create an initial state, just like we did with the other ones. And this initial state is going to have profile. I'm going to initially set this to null. Okay, I want it set to null, and then profiles, which will represent an array of profiles, that'll be set to null. And then loading, which will initially be set to false. Okay, because we're going to be fetching profiles, so loading will be false. But while it's fetching, while that's going on, I want this to be true. And then once they're fetched and we have them, this will be false again. So we can use that inside of our component to show a little spinner if it's still fetching, if it's still loading. All right, and then we're going to set this up just like any other reducer. We need to export default function, and this is going to take in state, which will be equal to our initial state, and then also action. Okay, and then it's going to have a switch statement depending on the action that is called. So we'll say action, or the action that's dispatched. And we're going to have a default, and the default is simply going to return the state. Okay, so basic setup of a reducer. Now, what I want to do is just create the types so that we don't have to keep creating them throughout the next few videos. So if we go into actions, types.js, and it'll also give you an idea of what's to come in the reducer. So first of all, let's see, we have get errors, set current user. We're going to have get profile, so we can just copy this down. Let's copy a bunch down. So this will be get underscore profile, and we're also going to have one for profile loading. All right, we want one for profile not found. Oops. And we also want one for clear current profile. So clear current profile, when we log out, we want that profile cleared. Okay, with the current user, the logged in user. We're also going to want get profiles. And I think that should do it as far as profiles go, as far as the types. So let's save that. And now at least we have those here and we can use them. All right, so we'll close that up. Let's create the actions file at least. So we'll say in actions, new file, profile actions.js. Now, what I want to do in here is I want to create an action or a function called get current profile, which is going to hit the API /profile endpoint. Now remember, that gets whatever user is logged in, whatever token is sent, it's going to get that user's profile. So in the actions, let's go ahead and import Axios. from Axios. And we also want to import the type. We actually want to import two types. We want get underscore profile. We also want, actually we want three. We want profile loading, and we also want get errors. All right, so we'll bring those in, and that's going to be from types. So /types. Okay, so let's say get current profile, and we're going to say export const get current profile. It's not going to take in any parameters. We are going to use the dispatch. Okay, now we want to dispatch a function or another action called set profile loading, okay, which will set the loading state before it actually does the request. So let's say dispatch, and then we'll say set profile loading, which we haven't created yet. We can actually create that right here. So let's say, yeah, we'll just say profile loading, and we'll say export const set profile loading, and all we're doing here is we're going to return type profile loading. All right, now with this profile loading, we don't need to send any payload or anything. It's just going to let the reducer know that it's loading. Okay, so we'll handle it there. Now under this dispatch profile loading is where we want to start to make our requests. So axios.get, and the endpoint we want, remember, it's /API/profile. That gets the current user's profile. Okay, and then let's do .then. That'll give us a response, which then we want to dispatch So we want to dispatch the type of get profile. Okay, and we want to send along a payload, and that payload will be the data, so res.data. So it'll be the actual profile. All right, now in the catch, so in the catch, we'll say error. And then here we want to dispatch get errors. So I'm just going to copy this dispatch, and we don't need curly braces. And we want to say get errors, and the payload is just going to be an empty object. I'm sorry, we don't want to do get errors here. We want to do get profile, because if there isn't one, I just want to return an empty object as the profile. All right, because the reason for this is because you can register as a user, as we can already do. We've already implemented that, and you cannot have a profile. Okay, and if you don't have a profile, if it's empty like this, then we want it to have a button that says, you know, you need to create a profile, create profile, and then it'll take us to the big form that has the bio and all those inputs. So that's what I want to do here. All right, so let's go ahead and save this, and then let's go to our profile reducer, and in here we're going to import, let's import our types. So we're going to want get profile, and we're going to want profile loading. Okay, so now let's add our cases. So we'll do profile loading first. So we'll say case profile loading, and all we want to do here is return our current state, and then loading will be true. Okay, so that's all profile loading does, is makes it true. And then when we get our profile, so get profile, so basically on success of getting it, then we want to return current state. Profile is going to be filled with the payload, so action dot payload, and then we want to set loading back to false. Okay, so save that, and hopefully you can see what's going on here. When we hit this endpoint, if it finds a profile, it's going to call get profile. It's going to pass along the data, which is the actual profile, and that's the payload. So profile will get filled. It'll go from null to that user, and loading will go to false. Okay, loading is going to go to true right here. When it's fetched, it'll go to false. If there's no profile, we don't want an error because it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the dashboard will render a little differently if there's not a profile. So that's why we're not using get errors. We're still going to call get profile, except the payload, instead of being a full profile with data, it's going to be empty. Okay, it's still going to get set to the payload, but that payload will be empty. And again, loading will be false, of course. All right, so hopefully you can kind of follow that logic. Now, let's very quickly create the dashboard component. We're not going to add the markup yet, but I at least want to call the action get current profile to make sure that that works. All right, so let's go to components, and we're going to create a new folder called dashboard. And it's going to be broken into a few different parts, but we are going to have a main dashboard.js. That's where we'll actually call that action. And let's do RCC tab to put a class-based component. Call it dashboard. I always spell dashboard like that. All right, now this is going to be connected to Redux. So obviously we need to do a couple things. We need to import, let's import prop types. Let's import connect. Okay, we'll go down. Let's just put an H1 in here. Okay, so we'll say connect, and we'll pass in here. Let's see. I don't think we need to map any state to props just yet. We do want to call get current profile, which we need to bring in. Okay, and that's going to come from /actions/profile actions. All right, now we want this to get called right away, so we're going to use a lifecycle method called component did mount. Okay, this is where we would call an AJAX request even if we weren't using Redux. So we'll say this.props.get current profile. All right, so if we look at our state here, you can see profile, it's all the initial stuff, but let's log in. Let's say, let's use tech guy 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's see, we got set current user. No, that didn't get called. And the reason for this is because we didn't actually create a route. So let's do that. So we'll go to app.js, bring in our dashboard. So it's going to be dashboard slash dashboard capital. Oh, I didn't make it a capital. Let's rename that. Okay, so let's go back to app.js. So we're bringing that in, and then we're just going to create a route for it. So I'm going to copy that down, and this is going to go slash dashboard, which is going to load the dashboard component. All right, save. Hopefully nothing goes wrong. Prop types is defined. Class names is defined. Oh, we can delete class names from the register and login components since we're using the text field groups now, or we're just going to get this warning. So let's just do that real quick. Just delete this right here from login and from register. Where are we? Auth, register. All right. So now let's go back to actually let's go back to our app. And okay, so profile is an empty object, which is exactly what it should be because our user that we're logged in as hasn't created a profile yet. But notice it's not null, it's empty. Okay. Now, when we log out, the profile should go back to null, okay, which it's not. So what we'll do is we will create an action. I'm just going to copy the profile loading because it's a very simple one like this. And we're going to say clear profile. And all we're going to do here, one second. Okay, all we're going to do here is call clear current profile, which I think we brought in. No, we didn't, but we have to. So let's say clear current profile. Bring that in. We're going to dispatch it to the reducer. So let's save this. Let's go to our reducer. Let's bring in clear current profile. Let's add a case for it. And all we want to do here in clear current profile is return the current state and set profile to null. All right, now when we log out, okay, now where's the logout? The logout is in the nav bar, right? So let's go to nav bar or layout nav bar. And let's bring in addition to the logout user from auth actions, we also want to bring in clear current profile. That's what it's called, right? Clear current profile. Oh, I didn't change the name. All right, so we want to bring that in, clear current profile from profile actions. And then we just want to call that right before logout user. So this dot props dot clear current profile. All right, and we need to add that down here as well. That. Okay, get errors, that's fine. All right, now it should clear when we log out, but one last thing I want to do is in our app.js, when it expires here, remember we had the to-do? Let's go ahead, let's copy this dispatch, and let's say we want to dispatch clear current profile. We can get rid of the to-do. Okay, let's save. It's not defined because we have to bring it in from the profile actions. Okay. And that's it. Let's try it. So we're going to log in. Let's do john@gmail.com. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Log in. All right, so profile. Let's go to state and look at the profile. It's an empty object, which is what we want. Now, once I hit log out, it should go to null. Let's log out. There it is. So now it's null. You can see it ran clear current profile. It also set the current user to nothing when we logged out. All right, guys, so we are getting there. Now, in the next video, we're going to start on our dashboard. Okay, and the dashboard is going to have multiple components embedded inside of it as well. All right, so we'll get to that in the next video.